welcome to Cupcake Addiction's Cosmetic Accessory Set tutorial, where I'll be showing you how to make these gorgeous cosmetic accessory set cupcake toppers, all fully edible. Tools and equipment that we will be using today: I have 3 cupcakes, 2 of them I've pre-iced and I've got 1 uniced, so I'll be showing you how to ice it in that way. I've got 2 butter knives, I've got a couple of toothpicks or cocktail sticks, I've got a little bit of melted dark chocolate. You don't need very much of this, it's just going to be used as a bit of a glue. I have some fruit chews, equivalent to taffy or any chewy lolly. So it's really just a pliable chewy lolly, and we're going to use that to mold into some of the shapes we're using today. I have some chocolate sprinkles or some brown sprinkles. The sprinkles that I'm using are not your traditional little round sprinkles. They're quite long, so they're going to be used as the hairs on our mascara brush. And I've got some lovely soft eating licorice. I've gone with the soft eating licorice, A, because it's a little bit pliable, and B, because they're lovely round shapes. So they're going to make these nice base shapes and lid shapes that we're looking for today. I've got a piece of caramel fudge. I've got a couple of mini Oreo cookies, and I've got a couple of pretzel sticks. Let's get started. I'm going to do these one at a time, so I'm going to start off with our Makeup Compact and Makeup Brush Cupcake. Firstly, the compact, because it does take quite some time to dry. I'm going to take that mini Oreo cookie and just slice it in half. Now I want to get rid of as much of that Oreo stuff as possible. So scrape it off as best as you can. You can eat it, you can do whatever you like with it, but just get it off the compact. Now I'm going to take one of my fruit chews. I've gone with pink and purple as my 2 colours today. I think they're nice and girly. You can see there, it is just a chewy lolly. They're quite firm and they do require a little bit of work to actually mould them. I'm going to cut off 1/3 of that lolly with my knife. And we'll leave that over there for our lipstick. Then I'm going to take the 1/3 and cut it in half. So what you should have will be 2 pieces about that size. Now I'm going to use my fingers to just mould these, and I'm really using quite a bit of pressure to squash them into shape, but you want to mould them into a bit of a circle shape. Once you've got a nice circle, you can press them out into a lovely disc. So you can see there, I'm just squeezing. Now I should also mention you can use fondant or modelling chocolate. I'm just using fruit chews today because I wanted to do a tutorial with no real complicated ingredients. I just want it to be all things that you can find in your local supermarket and your local confectionery aisle. So hopefully this is something that everyone can make at home. Now I'm just going to use my fingers to make that into a nice disc shape. So you want to do that twice so that you've got 2 of those. So we've got our lovely 2 little pink discs there moulded. So I'm just going to take one of my cocktail sticks and a little bit of that melted chocolate. Just pop a dab onto the Oreo and pop in a little bit of our pink blush. And again the same on the other side. Now to attach these together, you want another nice dab of the melted chocolate, and you want to just pop it on the edge here. Try not to let it spill over the edge too much, but you don't want to put too little on there. So you can see I've got a nice decent blob of the chocolate. Now I'm going to just rest my other half of the Oreo on top, and I'm going to support that with my fingers. Do make sure that you've got enough chocolate on there. You can see there, I haven't quite met up with that chocolate. The two fruit chews are actually sticking together, but just make sure that you do have chocolate on both halves. That's going to keep that compact lovely and open and looking like a makeup compact. Now I do also have just an M&M here. You don't necessarily have to have an M&M, you can have something else if you like. And I would like to just slot that in the middle there, just to keep that compact nice and open so that it doesn't fall closed while it's drying. Pop that one off to the side and we'll get started on the makeup brush. For the makeup brush, our makeup brush handle is just going to be a piece of the soft eating black licorice, and this is where our caramel fudge comes in. Caramel fudge is brilliantly pliable, so I'm just going to pull off about 1/4 of that caramel fudge, and you can see it's a lot easier to mould than those fruit chews. I'm just going to mould it into a bit of a circle, rolling it between my palms, and then I'm going to stretch it out into more of an oval shape, and then just flatten it down a little bit. You want to taper it at the bottom because that's going to be the piece that meets up with the handle, and just try it out for size. I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to take a clean knife, and I'm just going to pop lots and lots of little makeup brush bristle lines in the end of that. So that it looks nice and textured like a makeup brush. And then we're going to take another little bit of that melted chocolate, our glue for this tutorial, pop it on the end of your handle and attach that lovely bristled head. Just hold those together for a second or two to make sure that they attach, and I'm going to pop that over here so that it can dry while we move on to our next cupcake. The next one that we're going to do will be the nail polish and lipstick cupcake. So we'll start off with the lipstick. Once again, for the handle of the lipstick, we're going to use a piece of the soft eating licorice. The head of the lipstick is going to be the other 2/3 piece of our fruit chew. Now I will mention with these fruit chews, if you do want to soften them up a little bit, they are quite difficult to mould. You can pop them in the microwave. I'd pop them on for about 5-second intervals. You don't want to soften them too much, but it does just make them a little bit more pliable. Alright, so what I've got there is sort of a cylinder or a tube. Once again, just try that on for size. Right, it's quite long, so I'm going to cut the end of it on a bit of an angle, just like a fresh lipstick. And I also want to cut the base of it, just so it's a nice flat bottom that we're going to attach to the handle there. And I'm just going to reshape that so that it's still a nice cylinder. It's not flat on any particular side where we've cut it. Use my finger just to neaten up that edge where we've cut until I'm happy that it's looking lipsticky. Beautiful. Once again, our melted chocolate glue. Pop another little dollop of that onto the soft eating licorice and attach your lipstick head. Pop that one off to the side to dry with our compact and makeup brush. Now for the nail polish. I went with purple for the nail polish, just a bit of contrast to all the pink. Obviously you can choose red or any colour you like, or you can stick with the pink. So now for the nail polish, I want it to be still quite a square shape, so I don't want to take the sharpness off those edges too much. I'm going to squash it down a little bit, and I'm just going to give it just a light roll. You can see there it does still have its nice square shape, but I've just made it a little bit shorter and fatter and just taken the sharpness off the edges. That's all you're going to do for the base of that nail polish. And then pick a piece of soft eating licorice, a little bit of chocolate glue, and you guessed it, we're going to attach the licorice to the nail polish, like so. Pop that off to the side and let it dry. The final piece of our cosmetics set, we'll be doing the mascara brush and mascara pot. Once again, we'll be getting our trusty soft eating licorice. So one of these is going to be the pot of mascara, and the other one's going to be the end of the handle. We'll start off with the handle. I'm going to take a pretzel stick and one of those pieces of licorice. I'm going to take one of my cocktail sticks, and I'm just going to push it down the centre of the licorice, just to sort of clear a little bit of the way for that pretzel to go in. And then take your pretzel and push it gently into the middle, does pay to have a spare pretzel on hand just in case your pretzel breaks. Now I've got my pretzel in and I'm just going to pick a length, I think about here, that I think looks reasonable for a mascara brush. I'm going to take that now and I'm going to dip it into the chocolate. My container here is probably just a little bit shallower than I would like, so I'll take that knife and just scoop that chocolate over it. A deeper container would have been a little bit better for this particular part. Now I've got that dipped in chocolate, but I do want to make sure that there's no pretzel showing. So I'm just going to shake that chocolate down a little bit, and as it meets up with our soft eating licorice, I'm going to use my cocktail stick or my toothpick just to blend it right to the edge. While that chocolate's still wet, we're going to dip the end into these lovely chocolate sprinkles. You can either dip the end, or I'd probably prefer just to sprinkle some on so that I've got a little bit more control. And you just want them on the end there, like the bristles of a makeup brush. That one there I'm going to dry standing up on its end, like so. Hopefully it's not going to fall over. Maybe standing up on its end, leaning against something so that it doesn't fall over. And then for the mascara pot, I've simply put a little bit of the melted chocolate so that it looks like a bit of mascara in the lid. And I've done a little drizzle of that going over the edge. So it's as simple as just blobbing on a little bit of chocolate and then just letting it slide over the edge a bit. It's from a messy makeup applier. There's your little mascara pot. Now while those are completely drying, and do make sure that you give them a good 5 or 10 minutes to completely dry, I'm going to show you how I got this effect on the cupcakes. It's a bit of a different frosting effect than what we're used to. For these cupcakes, I think that the accessories really are the star of the show. So I didn't want to put a big swirl or anything too fancy on top of the cupcakes. I just wanted a lovely flat surface in appropriate colours. So I've got the cupcake. I've got a little bit of chocolate buttercream frosting just because I wanted the pink and brown effect. I'm going to take a clean knife. I'm going to scoop into that frosting. You will notice my cupcakes are normally a little bit higher on top. I've put a bit less mix in these so that they're a little bit flatter. They don't have to be completely flat, but if you've got a great big dome, just trim a little bit of it off. It just makes it a little bit easier to do this flat top technique. All right, so I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to push the frosting out to the edges. I'm doing this just to try and keep the edges as neat as possible. So I'm going to fill them out with frosting. Now take another quite generous blob or a couple of blobs of frosting. And what you want to do here is just work it back and forward until it's actually coming out over the edges. Not down the sides, but out over the edges. So you can see what I mean here. It's coming, if you look at it upside down, I suppose, you can see the frosting coming over the edges of the cupcake. That's what you want, around all sides. And give your knife a good wipe because you want it to be as clean as possible. And just scrape around. Wipe it off, scrape around, wipe it off, scrape around, and scrape around. You can just neaten that top section out a little bit so it's nice and flat. And if you do happen to get a few little bits that have gone down into your cupcake cases, just use your finger, work around the edges and clean it up. Alright, all of our accessories should be dry enough to pop onto our cupcakes. So we'll take our 2 pink and 1 brown and we'll pop them on. We'll start off with that makeup compact. I'm going to remove the M&M. There's your little compact, ready to go on top. Push it in. We've got our lovely little makeup brush. Pop that on with the compact. For our brown cupcake, we're going to go with the lipstick. I like to lie the lipstick down because it is quite tall. And the nail polish. Sit those in there. And finally, we've got the mascara pot and that lovely little mascara brush. If you love our tutorials, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. We do upload every week and we're always coming up with new and wonderful ideas and tutorials. Thanks very much for watching.